सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, today we are starting new chapter, chapter 57, Satrajit murdered, the jewel returned. Text 1 onwards. Shri Badhrayana Vacha Vigyatartho api Govindo Dagdhana Karne Pandavan Kuntim Chakulya Karne Saharamo Yayo Kurun. Shri Badhrayani said, Badhrayani means Shukdev Goswami. Although Lord Govinda was fully aware of what had actually occurred, when he heard reports about that the Pandavas and Queen Kunti had burnt to death, he went with Lord Balram to the kingdom of the Kurus to fulfill the family obligations expected of him. So, story Shukdev Goswami is little changing, but it all will come back together for the Samantak jewel. So, this is a story when Pandavas were plotted by Duryodhan to be killed in the Lakshagraha. The Lord was quite aware that the Pandavas had escaped the assassination plot of Duryodhan, although the world heard the false news that the Pandavas and their mother had perished in the fire. Bhishmam kripam saviduram gandharim dronameva cha tulya dukho cha sangamya akashtamiti hochatu. The two lords met with Bhishma, Kripa, Vidura, Gandhari and Drona. Showing sorrow equal to theirs, they cried out, alas, how painful this is. Srila Sridhar Swami points out that those who were involved in the assassination attempt were, of course, not at all sorry to hear of the Pandavas' death. The persons specifically mentioned here, however, Bhishma, Kripa, Vidura, Gandhari, and Drona, were actually unhappy to hear of the supposed tragedy. Labdhavat tad antaram rajan shatadhanvan uchatu akrura krita varmano mani kasmanna griyate. Taking advantage of this opportunity means because when Krishna and Balram were absent from Dwarka, O king, Akrura and Kritvarma went to Shatadhanva and said, why not take the Samantak jewel? Akrura and Kritvarma reasoned that since Krishna and Balram were absent from Dwarka, Satrajit could be killed and the jewel stolen. Srila Sridhar Swami mentions that these two must have flattered Shatadhanva, telling him, you are much braver than we are, so you kill him. So as we studied yesterday, Satrajit's brother Prasena took the jewel with him to the forest and he was killed by the lion. Lion took the jewel and Jamban killed the lion, gave the jewel to his son. Krishna went and fought with Jamban. And then he brought the jewel and Jamban meanwhile got his daughter married to Krishna, Jamvati. So Krishna brought the jewel back. And jewel was given back to Satrajit. Satrajit was very ashamed. So he had his daughter, Satyabhama, marry Krishna. And he gave the jewel, but Krishna said, no, you are too attached to it, you keep it with you. Now, when Krishna and Balram were absent from Dwarka, now Akrura is such a great person. We'll see how he got implicated in this. So Akrura and Kritvarma. Now, why Kritvarma? Because Kritvarma wanted to marry Satyabhama. But Krishna married Satyabhama, so. And this is all happening in Dwarka. It's supposed to be Vaikuntha planet. Because it's non-different from original Dwarka. But either Krishna's Maya works so strongly over there, or we can say that consciousness can be changed at any place. We got to be very careful. And so they too, Akrura and Kritvarma, they told Shatadhanva that you are much braver than we are, so you can kill Satrajit. Yasmam bhayam sampratishrutya kanya ratnam vigarena krishnaya danna Satrajit kasmad bhratram anviya. Satrajit promised his jewel-like daughter to us, but then gave her to Krishna instead, contemptuously neglecting us. So why should Satrajit not follow his brother's path? Since Satrajit's brother Prasena had been violently killed, the implication of following his brother's path is obvious. What we have here is an assassination plot. It is well known that both Akrura and Kritvarma are exalted pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, so their unusual behavior requires some explanation. The Acharyas provide it as follows. Srila Jiva Goswami states that Akrura, although a first-class pure devotee of the Lord, was a victim. Now, what happened to Akrura? So if you remember, Akrura came to Vrindavan at the order of Kansa to take Krishna and Balram back to Mathura. And how he got down from the chariot when he saw the lotus feet imprints of Krishna on the ground, and how he worshipped, and how he was thankful that he was able to see Krishna and the Baba Balram, and he spent time. We read all this. But then why he got into so much of this assassination plot? What happened was the Acharyas provided as follows. Srila Jiva Goswami states that Akrura, although a first-class pure devotee of the Lord, was a victim of the anger directed against him by the residents of Gokul because he took Lord Krishna away from Vrindavan. He took Krishna, especially gopis. They were so angry at Akrura. They were saying, he's not Akrura, he's Krura. He's cruel. So because they were angry, so Akrurji, they say, committed an offense. Unknowingly, he was just doing his duty, that's all. The Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami further states that Kritvarma had associated with Kansa, both of them being members of the Bhoja dynasty, and thus Kritvarma was now suffering from his undesirable association. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur offers an alternative explanation. Both Akrura and Kritvarma were furious with Satrajit because he had insulted Lord Krishna and spread false rumors about him in Dwarka. Under normal circumstances, Akrura and Kritvarma would have been most pleased that Lord Krishna married the beautiful Satyabhama. Being pure devotees, they could not actually be unhappy about this match, nor could they become jealous rivals of the Lord. Therefore, they had an ulterior motive in behaving like his rivals, because they were angry at Satrajit that how did he talk about Krishna, and how could he spread rumors about Krishna? So they wanted to get him killed. Evam bhinna matistabhyam satrajitam asattama shyanam avadhi lobhat sapapakshena jivita. His mind, thus influenced by their advice, wicked Shatadhanva murdered Satrajit in his sleep simply out of greed. In this way, the sinful Shatadhanva shortened his own lifespan. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word asattama indicates that Shatadhanva was basically evil-minded and a firm hater of Satrajit. Strinam vikroshamananam grandanti namanatavat tattva pashuna sonikvan mane madaya jagnivan. As the women of Satrajit's palace screamed and helplessly wept, Shatadhanva took the jewel and left like a butcher after he has killed some animals. And this is happening in Dwarka. Satyabhama chapitaram hatam viksha shucharpita vyalapattat tateti ha hatasmiti muyati. When Satyabhama saw her dead father, she was plunged into grief lamenting, my father, oh, I'm killed. She felt unconscious, or she fell unconscious. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Satyabhama's anguished feelings and words at the death of her father were prompted by Lord Krishna's pastime potency, Leela Shakti, to prepare for the Lord's violent reaction against Shatadhanva. So Satyabhama fell unconscious on the ground. Taladronyamritam prasya jagam gaj savyam krishnaya viditarthaya tapta chakyo piturvadham. Queen Satyabhama put her father's corpse in a large vat of oil and went to Hastinapur, where she sorrowfully told Lord Krishna, who was already aware of the situation, about her father's murder. So she went all the way from Dwarka to Hastinapur to intimate Krishna of her father's murder. Although Krishna knows everything, but this is all pastime, Leela potency of Krishna working here. Tada karneshwaro rajan anusritya nirlokata mahona paramam kashtam miti sraksha vilepatu. And then look at what Krishna does. When Lord Krishna and Lord Balram heard this news, "O king," they exclaimed, "alas, this is the greatest tragedy for us." Thus imitating the ways of human society, they lamented, their eyes brimming with tears. Agatya bhagavan tasmat sabharya sagraja puram shatadhanvan marebhe hantum hartum manim tataha. The Supreme Lord returned to his capital with his wife and elder brother. After arriving in Dwarka, he raided himself to kill Shatadhanva and retrieve the jewel from him. Sopi kritodyamam gyatva bhita prana paripsaya sahaya kritavarapanam ayachacha sacha bravit. Upon learning that Lord Krishna was preparing to kill him, Shatadhanva was struck with fear. To save his life, he approached Kritvarma and begged him for help, but Kritvarma replied as follows. Nam Iswarayo Kuryam Kelanam Ram Krishnayo Konum Shepaya Kalpeta Tayor Vrijanam Acharan Kansa Sahanugo Apito Yadveshatyajita Shriya Jarasandha Saptadasha Samyugad with Ratho Gataha. Kritvarma said, I dare not offend the Supreme Lords, Krishna and Balram. Indeed, how can one who troubles them expect any good fortune? Kansa and his followers lost both their wealth and their lives because of enmity towards them. And after battling them 17 times, Jarasandha was left without even a chariot. So Kritvarma, although Kritvarma and Akrura, they are the ones who are instigating Shatadhanva. But now he's saying, I'm not going to help you. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that the word Helanam indicates acting against the Lord's will, and that Vrijanam indicates an offense against the Lord. Pratakhyata sachakruram parshani grahayamayachata sopiyako viruddheta vidvanishwar yor balam. His appeal refused. Shatadhanva went to Akrura and begged him for protection. But Akrura similarly told him, who would oppose the two personalities of Godhead if he knew their strength? See, so we got to be very, very careful, even in this world. Forget about in devotee community. If somebody instigates to go against the law, we got to be very careful. You're not going to get any protection afterwards. And why go do anything illegal or immoral? Ya idam lilya vishvam srajati vati hanti chaha cheshtam vishwasrajo yasya navidur mohita jaya. It is the Supreme Lord who creates, maintains, and destroys this universe simply as his pastime. The cosmic creators cannot even understand his purpose, bewildered as they are by his illusory Maya. The use of the singular ya, he who, indicates that the frequent references to the two lords, Krishna and Ram, do not compromise the firm principles of monotheism expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam. So they are one. As explained in many Vedic literature, the one Supreme Lord expands himself into innumerable forms, yet he remains the one and almighty God. So he is one, he just expands himself into many, but he is still the one. Yah saptahayana shalam utpatya ken panina dadhar leelaya bala uchilindram Ivarbhaka. As a child of 7, Krishna uprooted an entire mountain and held it aloft as easily as a young boy picks up a mushroom. So Akrura is saying, he's so powerful. I cannot protect you. I cannot go against him. Namastasmai bhagavate krishnaya adbhut karmane anantaya adibhutaya kutasthaya atmane namaha. I offer my obeisances to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose every deed is amazing. He is the Supreme Soul, the unlimited source, and fixed center of all existence. Pratyakhyata satena pi shatdhanva mahamanim tasminnasya ashvam aruya shatyo janagam yayo. His appeal thus rejected by Akrura also, Shatdhanva placed the precious jewel in Akrura's care and fled on a horse that could travel 100 yojans or 800 miles. Special horses. The term Nyasya, leaving in the care of, implies Shatdhanva now believed the jewel was his. Thus he was leaving it in the care of a friend. In blunt terms, this is a thief's mentality. And leaving in the care means he was thinking, I'll come back and take the jewel back. Garuda Dhwaja Maruya Ratham Rama Janardano Anvyatam Mahavegar Ashwa Rajan Guru Druham. My dear king, Krishna and Balram mounted Krishna's chariot, which flew the flag of Garuda and was yoked with tremendously swift horses and pursued their elder's murderer. Mithilayam apavane visrajya patitam hayam padbhyam dhavat santrastha Krishno api anvad vadrusha. In a garden on the outskirts of Mithila, the horse Shatdhanva was riding collapsed. Terrified, he abandoned the horse and began to flee on foot with Krishna in angry pursuit. So outskirts of Mithila, they went all the way from Dwarka to Mithila. Padatera bhagvanstasya padatistig mane mina chakrena shir utkritya vasasorvya chinon manim. As Shabdhanva fled on foot, the Supreme Lord, also going on foot, cut off his head with his sharp-edged disc, Sudarshan. The Lord then searched Shabdhanva's upper and lower garments for the Semantak jewel. Alabdhamane ragatya Krishna aha grajantikam vritahata Shabdhanur manistatra na vidyate. Not finding the jewel, Lord Krishna went to his elder brother and said, we have killed Shabdhanva uselessly. The jewel isn't here. Tataha valo nunam samani Shabdhanvana tasmin shit purushe nyastas tamanavesha puram praja. To this, Lord Balram replied, indeed, Shabdhanva must have placed the jewel in care of someone. You should return to our city and find that person. Aham vedeham ichhami drashtam priyatamam iti yuktam mithila rajan vivesha yadunandana. All part of big pastime. I wish to visit King Videha, who is most dear to me. O king, having said this, Lord Balram, the beloved descendant of Yadu, entered the city of Mithila. So he went to Mithila city. And he told Krishna, okay, you go back to Dwarka and look for the jewel. Krishna Balram had finally caught up with Shatdhanva on the outskirts of Mithila. Since the king of the city was a dear friend of Balaram's, the Lord decided to enter the city and spend some time there. Tam drishtva sahasotthaya Mathila pritamanasa arhayam as vidivat arhaniyam samarhanen. The king of Mithila immediately rose from his seat when he saw Lord Balram approaching. Sorry. With great love, the king honored the supremely worshipable Lord by offering him elaborate worship as stipulated by scriptural injunctions. Vastasyam katichin mithilayam samadhiku manita priti yuktena janakena mahatmana tato ashikshat gadam kale dharta rashtra suyodhana. The Almighty Lord Balram stayed in Mithila for several years, not just for months or days, several years he stayed there, honored by his affectionate devotee Janak Maharaj. So, of course, it's not the same Janak Maharaj who's father of Mother Sita. This is end of Dwapara Yuga, but I guess in Mithila, there's so many Janak Maharajas. During that time, Dhritarashtra's son Duryodhan learned from Balram the art of fighting with the club. So Duryodhan also came there and he learned the art of fighting with the club from Balramji. Kesho Dwarakametya Nidhanam Shatadhanvana Apraptim Chamane Praha Priyaya Priyakrit Vibhu. Lord Keshav arrived in Dwarka and described the demise of Shatdhanva and his own failure to find the Shamantak jewel. He spoke in a way that would please his beloved Satyabhama. Naturally, Queen Satyabhama was pleased to hear that her father's murderer had been brought to justice, but her father's Shamantak jewel still had to be recovered, and thus she was also pleased to hear of Lord Krishna's determination to recover it. Tata sakaryamasa kriya bandor hatasya vai sakam suhrit phir bhagwan yayasyu samprayati. Lord Krishna then had the various funeral rites performed for his deceased relative Satyajit. The Lord attended the funeral along with the well-wishers of the family. Akrura Kritvarma cha Shrutva Shatadhanor Vadham Yushtur Bhaya Vitrasto Dwarkaya Prayojako. When Akrura and Kritvarma, who had originally incited Shatdhanva to commit his crime, heard that he had been killed, they fled Dwarka in terror and took up residence elsewhere. Akrure proshito arishtanya asanve dwarka koksam sharira manasastapa muhur devika bhotika. In Akrura's absence, ill omens arose in Dwarka and the citizens began to suffer continually from physical and mental distresses, as well as from disturbances caused by higher powers and by creatures of the earth. So in Dwarka, although Krishna is there, but so many disturbances were happening. The word Devik here refers to disturbances caused by supernatural beings. These disturbances often manifest as natural calamities like earthquakes, tidal waves, or extreme weather. Nowadays, materialistic people attribute these disturbances to earthly causes, not realizing that they constitute punishments at the hands of superior beings. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Akrura took the Shamantak jewel and went to reside in the city of Banaras or Kashi, where he became known as Dhanapati, the master of charity. There he executed fire sacrifices on gold altars with elaborate assemblies of qualified priests, because that Shamantak jewel was giving 40 kilo of gold every day. Some residents of Dwarka felt that the unusual calamities were due to Akrura's absence, forgetting that the Supreme Lord's personal presence in Dwarka precluded that possibility. Because when the Lord comes to earth, his pastimes resemble those of human beings. The principle of familiarity breeds contempt comes into play. It appears that during the lives of many saintly persons and incarnations of God, there always exists a class of people who fail to appreciate, or who only occasionally appreciate, the position of the great souls among them. On the other hand, the fortunate and enlightened souls who recognize the true position of the Lord and his associates are supremely blessed. So every kind of people were there in Dwarka. Dwarka was a big city, big place. And so many things were happening. Now they were saying, oh, because Akrurji is not here, so many terrible things are happening in Dwarka. They should have just taken shelter of Krishna. But these are all his pastimes. So much of Leela Shakti takes over and does all these wonderful pastimes. So anyway, we'll stop here and we'll continue with this pastime tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.